Hey, what's up? My name's FEMI KOLEOSO from Ezra Collective, and I'm here in the OkayAfrica studio. Yeah, so the title and the concept of the album was born out of a real joy and love for how people interact with Ezra Collective. A lot of people would say things like Ezra Collective makes them feel happy and makes them feel joyful and makes them feel, you know, passionate and a zeal for life. And that is such a beautiful honor. But as I kind of spent the last couple of years really spending time reading about what was happening in the world and what is happening to people and different people groups, etc., I was feeling a lot of pain, and I started getting really interested about the relationship between pain and joy. And from that became finding music and songs that were written in pain but bring joy. It's like this song, Fela Kuti, such a brilliant example. You know, this song was written about, you know, the Nigerian army executing your mother, but I play it in a club and everyone dances and it brings joy. And that kind of juxtaposition between pain and joy, and kind of thinking to ourselves, what allows for you to be in pain but forecast joy? And that word in the middle was hope. And that's where the concept of writing about hope became kind of within us. And Here Because of Hope was really explaining whether you're feeling pain or joy, we're both here because hope kind of links the two. So that's where the concept and the title came from. Yeah, it was kind of like the concept was birthed out of falling in love with this juxtaposition between pain and joy. And I decided with my brothers to write the story featuring just different narratives of pain into joy. And one of the questions that was just on my mind was, how do you go through like a slave trade and end up creating calypso music? All logic says it shouldn't sound like calypso, but then that's what it became. And so we decided to document these different moments of painful stories becoming joyful dance floors, and use the movement of African people to the Caribbean and then back to the UK. And that was kind of how we wove the narrative together and used genres and countries to kind of tell this story. Yeah, the African and Nigerian influences on Ezra Collective, well, most broadly to speak about the continent of Africa, there is no modern day UK without the continent of Africa. And what Africa has done to London means that if you're born in London, you are immediately kind of indoctrinated with African influences, whether it's more modernly like the Amapiano from South Africa, or whether it's the Rastafarian influences of Ethiopia, or whether it's the Afrobeat or high life from Nigeria or Ghana. Those sounds, those foods, those languages, those cultures were just a part of our upbringing. So when I first had a drumstick in my hand and looked at a drum kit, the sound of like a West African bembe is already in my soul just by virtue of being from London. And then specifically on Ezra Collective, we really pride ourselves on being eloquent at telling the story of who we are, because that's all we have to contribute to the world and music. And so it's kind of like, if you're being honest about who you are, the fact that my surname is KOLEOSO and I'm the child of Nigerian immigrants has to come through in our music. And that's kind of the effect that Nigeria has in the band, and that's the effect that the continent of Africa has on the band. There's a song with Partisan, and he's representing Gambia in the first section of the record. And then the Caribbean, we have a wonderful singer called Lila Ike, who's on that side of the record, and she's just so wonderful. She's from Jamaica. Representing the UK, we have Leona Lewis, who has the most beautiful, elegant voice. She's a real icon. And then the album is narrated by a wonderful actress called Letitia Wright, who kind of is just as much a feature as the rest of them. So those are the features on the record. Oh, and the last tune is with a wonderful singer called Libyanka, who kind of like, if you like, we go Africa, Caribbean, UK, and then we go to heaven. And Libyanka's voice sounds like it's from heaven, so that made perfect sense. My drum teacher was, for a period of time, was Uncle Tony Allen, who was Fela Kuti's drummer, but he was also best friends, really close with Damon Albarn. And when he sadly passed away, I was asked to do a tribute to him alongside Damon. And so we made this tribute, and we bonded over our love for Uncle Tony and many other things. And I think that bond then became him shouting me and saying, you know, do you want to join my band? And I was like, of course, you know, Damon's a hero and an icon and everything in between. But I didn't expect the band to be Gorillaz. And so I got a message and it was like, yeah, the band's Gorillaz. And I'll never forget being sent that first kind of Dropbox link with the music to learn, and it was my whole childhood and beyond. So that was a really precious, precious thing. And then touring with them was a dream. I'll never forget being sat 2022 or 21, 22 or 21. I was sat at a drum kit in the O2 Arena in London, just remembering like Clint Eastwood is like 2 songs away, and just having this outer body experience of like, how are you playing drums for the Clint Eastwood moment? Like, that's your favorite song kind of moment. So yeah, it was precious, really special. Oh man, it's a good question. I think, yeah, this is our 3rd release with Partisan. I think one of the things that I would say is it's been really precious seeing the growth, both of Ezra Collective and of Partisan, and seeing these records represent that journey and that growth. Round 1 being where I'm meant to be, and it being at one level, and then Dance No One's Watching being at another level. And I feel like this one has elevated it even more. I feel like a good label is there to try and make you the best version of who you are as an artist. And I do feel like we are slowly approaching the best version of Ezra Collective. And that's thanks to a lot of very precious, hardworking people in offices all over the place, basically riding out for your songs like they wrote them. And that's really, really precious. So yeah, I couldn't be more grateful. The most rewarding moment of my career so far, I think I would narrow that down to 2025 Ezra Collective versus Glastonbury Festival, 6 p.m. on the other stage. And not just that we were, you know, once we walked out, within 4 minutes, it was like, yeah, this is looking like at least a 7 out of 10. But the climax of the show for me was when one of the children from my youth group came and joined us on stage. A bunch of children from youth clubs and youth groups, but one girl in particular, she came out to sing the last song, God Gave Me Feet for Dancing. And I think the reason that was the actual top of the mountain moment was because I was her youth leader when she was about 11 years old, and she'd never spoke until she was about 18. She was quite shy. So to go from that moment when she was 11 and she was just like really quiet, to then discovering this beautiful voice when she was 18, and then when she was like 21, she walks out in front of 80,000 people and takes down our best song. That was like, I think that was the real, this is what music is about. This is why God gave us music, to give it away. And it was a real moment of giving. We gave that gig away to her for the remaining 6 minutes, and that's the proudest I think I've ever been of the band. When I was probably about 11 years old, and I'd had money, and I wanted to buy my first CD. And my uncle, I asked him, logically, I'm ready to buy a CD. What's the best song that was ever made? And he just said Superstition by Stevie Wonder. He answered it like it was 2 + 2 = 4, but I appreciated that because there was no doubt in my mind. So I was like, all right, cool. I should start my collection with the best song ever made. So I bought Motown 50 compilation, which had Superstition on it. But then I got this whole like Bible of great music. So that was round 1. But then my first record, my mum bought for me for Christmas when I was 18, and she bought me Fear Not of Man by Fela Kuti. And that was how I started my record collection. What a hip present, innit? And then, yeah, that was that, and I never looked back. I grew up listening to a lot of Fela Kuti. That was my dad's bag. Specifically, Teacher Don't Teach Me Nonsense. He had that CD in the car. He also had a Kirk Franklin CD. So when it was time to go to church, we'd get into that. And then he had Kaya by Bob Marley. I feel like he only had 3 CDs, but they were just like really great selections. So it was those 3 on rotation for about a decade. My introduction, so I was born in '94, so my introduction to physical music would have been CDs and tapes. and growing up in the house with them and loving them. But then coming to my teenage years, it was all wiped out in the name of MP3 players and iPods and then streaming and stuff. And I think I've kind of found my love for them when I was about 19, 20, because I just think physical ownership is so powerful in a world where everything is kind of disappearing into a cloud, to the point where, you know, this might be the first year I go without having a single note in my pocket. Do you know what I mean? Because it's all touch, touch, touch. I think physical representation of someone's art is so powerful. Like it's mad, we're in New York the other day, Sonny Rollins passed away, who's my favorite saxophonist of all time. And when he passed away, I never met him, I never got to shake his hand, I never got to tell him what he means to me. But what I did have was all these records where it was almost like he was writing these love letters to me, and then I could play the songs that he'd made for me. Do you know what I mean? And just having that physically, it's almost like Sonny Rollins didn't go anywhere. He's just preciously put on my records, like on my vinyl collection. So that's why I think it's so important. That's why it's so important to make them for me, because I want to exist beyond just my physical life. I want to leave something that someone else can read the love letter I've got for them, you know?